would like to now talk about a method that is called completing the square on a function. There are detailed notes on exactly the steps you should go through when completing the square, but I would like to show you on this example. The first thing to notice is in our function there's an understood 1 in front of our x squared value. This is very important. When it's not a 1, we have to do slightly a different procedure. As our first step, we will separate the squared term and the x term from the constant. And what I usually do is I'll just move my constant over so it's separated from the x squared and the x term. Now I'm going to do some work on the side. So I'm going to call this my scratch work. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to look at the number that's in front of my x. Take that number that's in front of x, multiply it by 1/2, and square it. This is one of the steps in completing the square. You always take 1/2 of whatever value is in front of x and you square it. Well, 1/2 of 10 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. I will always write the second step in here because later on I'm going to use that number that's on the inside before it got squared. Now what I'll do is the 25 that I got from doing these steps, I'm going to come and add it to my x squared and my 10x group, but I can't just add a number in without also taking the very same number out. Notice that this function that I'm dealing with, it's not an equation. I know that we see an equal sign originally in the problem, but it's not an equation because the left-hand side is just function notation. It's saying this is the name of the function. So I can't add 25 to both sides of this equation because it's not an equation. Instead, what I can do is add the 25 to certain terms, and on the very same side, take the 25 away. Now my goal is to factor the 3 first terms. I know it would factor as 2 binomials. X and x would give me the x squared. Then you go to the 25 and ask yourself what are factors of 25 that would add to 10. Well, I could use 5 and 5. And then because all my signs are positive, I know that that would be a positive 5. Notice that that factor that I placed in those binomials is the same value that I had over here before I squared it. That will always be the case. Now I will combine the 2 constant terms. So I have positive 23 minus 25 would be a negative 2. Now, because my 2 binomials are the same binomials, I could rewrite this as x plus 5 squared minus my constant. And then just bring down the f of x notation, and so I have this as my final result. Completing the square means to write it in this particular form where you have a binomial that is being squared and then either plus or minus a constant value at the end.